pessoal, tudo bem com vocês? E sejam bem-vindos a mais um episódio de Lendo Inglês com o livro The Star Shepherd. A gente tá aqui hoje no capítulo 12, vamos ler aí juntinhos. Se você acabou de chegar aqui no canal, seja bem-vindo. Eu sugiro que se esse for o primeiro vídeo do canal que você tem contato, que você volte aqui na playlist Lendo Inglês e ache lá, né, o vídeo do primeiro capítulo para você entender a história desde o comecinho. Nós estamos aqui lendo inglês em voz alta, né, para poder trabalhar vocabulário novo, a pronúncia, leitura e a importância de ler em voz alta para você também treinar, né, a sua fala. Então vamos lá, né? Todos prontos? Todo mundo aí já pegou o seu próprio livro, ou quem não tem como comprar esse livro, né? Porque ele é um livro importado, então ele é bem carinho. Mas se você não tem como, acompanhe aqui na legenda comigo. Agora, se você tem o livro, pegue ele aí para você ler junto comigo. Então vamos lá. Chapter 12. Carol and Andra nestled in the chair under the telescopes, keeping watch far into the night until the morning stretched its arms in the farthest corner of the sky. Soon the watch would be over and Andra would have to sneak back home before her father discovered she was missing. But just as they had both resigned themselves to that idea, a brilliance lit the sky directly above the watchtower. They sat frozen, as an entire constellation plummeted to the earth. Andra gasped. Alarm flared over Cairo. How could they possibly transplant that many stars in the little time left before dawn? He raced down the stairs, dragging Andra with him. Cypher lifted his head, curious, then went back to dreams of chasing mice. The pair burst out the door and stopped short. The yard beyond the watchtower was dotted with a dozen smoking craters. Empty smoking craters. And yet, not a single vessel was in sight, and the stardust circling the yard remained unbroken. Carol stumbled toward the nearest crater. Reminded of that terrible night he and his father had discovered the stars were missing. It happened again, but Carol waved away some of the smoke. Something in the bottom of a crater caught his eye. He hopped down into it and gingerly picked the thing up. A severed hook. Carol sagged against the edge of the crater, cradling the hook in his hand. Andra dodged between all the other craters dotting the yard, but returned with hunched shoulders and a handful of hooks just like the one Carol held. She sat next to him, her warmth doing nothing to stem the chill creeping over him. Awful understanding slid through his gut. They sliced through the burlap casings, and now this severed hook. Carol had never ever seen one before. No one had, as far as he knew. The Elder's magic had fixed the hooks in the sky, making them unshakable. They weren't ever supposed to fall. Carol's brain reeled, his breath suddenly short. The stars weren't merely being stolen. They were being cut down. It was undeniable. Before, it could have been anything. The Vizsla, the villagers, the stars spontaneously combusting. But here was irrefutable proof. The hooks had been sliced off. Someone had done this on purpose. And now all these stars were lost. His father had only been gone a short while, and already Carol was failing to keep up their star shepherding duties. The council had maps of all the stars in the sky. His father had one of their sector hanging in his workshop. The missing constellation over the tower would forever mark them as failures. What would he tell the council now? He hung his head and dizziness swept over him, the hook slipping from his fingers. All those stars, murmured Andra, her voice cracking. She wound her fingers through Carol's hand. They watched, tears glimmering in their eyes, as dawn broke across the sky and the stars faded from view. Wherever the fallen stars had ended up, it was too late for them now. "Come on," Andrew said, pulling Carol up by his arm. "Let's get you inside." He barely remembered Andrew leading him into the house or how he stumbled the entire way. But when she sat him in a chair by the kitchen table and put a warm cup of cocoa in his hand, he began to return to himself. "My father was right," Carol said finally. "Someone is stealing the stars. They're cutting them down." "But who would do such a thing? And how? Who could possibly get all the way up there?" Andra furrowed her brow. "I don't know. I can't understand why anyone would want to do that. The villagers couldn't reach that far, and no one else lives near us, not for miles. The elders used their mechanical giants to put them there in the first place, but those are long gone. Could it be those shadow creatures like we saw the other night?" Carol shook his head. "If it was, we'd hear the crackling of ice freezing over. We'd feel the cold lingering. It wasn't even a whole minute between when we saw them fall and us reaching the yard. Not even the Vizsla are that fast, and they don't seem to be able to get past the stardust protecting the yard. I think I was wrong about it being them." Andrew squeezed his hand, and he squeezed back. "Maybe your father's already on their trail. You said he went after whoever did this, right? He'll stop them, I'm sure of it." Carol wanted to scoff, but sipped from the mug of cocoa instead. The idea of his father following through on his promises seemed laughable, except when it had to do with the stars. That was the only thing he truly cared about. But where could his father have gone when their thief was still there in Dren? Carol couldn't puzzle it out, but he knew his father would follow through if he could, no matter what happened to those left behind. Now, Carol had the answer for his father's absence. "I don't know if he can. It's too much for one man. He should have gone to the Star Shepherd Council for help, but for some reason he chose not to." "Why?" Andra frowned. Carol sighed. "He told them about the first star that was cut down on our watch, and heard rumors about the Vizsla there. I don't know why he wouldn't go back, but now I have to explain it." "What do you mean?" "The council is putting my father on trial for abdicating his Star Shepherd duties. The meeting is tonight. If he doesn't show, he'll be labeled a traitor and banned from being a Star Shepherd." Carol's eyes watered. No matter how much he resented Tyrion's obsession with the stars, he couldn't let the council take away the one thing that had given his father some small measure of hope. "That's not fair," Andra said. "Your father only disappeared to save the stars." Carol shrugged. "Well, now I get to go in his place. Someone has to defend him to the council." Andrew squeezed his hand again. "I could go with you, if you want. I've seen how dedicated he is to his job." "I don't want to drag you into this." Carol ducked his head. "Your father hates me enough as it is, and I'd feel terrible if you got into trouble again because of me. You're risking enough just being here now." Andrew was quiet for several moments. "When must you leave?" "This morning." Carol placed his empty mug on the table. He dreaded making this trip. He'd have to tell the council of his failures and all the stars that fell last night. And in the process, he'd be leaving this section of the sky unwatched. "I'll help you pack." She stood and stretched. I'm not ready to go home yet." While Carol stuffed a satchel with essentials and the map to the council's tower that his father kept in a workshop drawer, Andrew put together some of the food from the groceries she'd brought over. When Cairo returned from his bedroom, he saw a little paper bag that contained the sweets and couldn't help but smile. He hoisted his pack onto his shoulder, called Cypher to him, and took one last look around the house. An odd feeling struck Cairo. He'd only be gone for a day or two, but the idea of leaving caused an unexpected lump to form in the back of his throat. "Let me walk you home," Cairo said. Cypher wagged his tail at the prospect of going for a walk. Together they headed toward the village. They didn't say a word as they wove through the craters dotting Cairo's yard. Each were lost in their own thoughts, the sound of their footfalls punctuated by birds singing and insects humming in the forest, and each of their hearts was a little heavier than it had been the night before. When they reached the village gates, Andrew turned to Cairo. "Good luck with the council. Don't worry about the stars here," she said. "You've shown me how to send them back to the sky. I'll be watching them while you're gone." "No, Andrew, it's too dangerous. The Vizsla..." She put a finger on his lips. "The Vizsla won't be able to catch me. Go and defend your father, Starboy, and don't worry about Dren." She grinned, then stepped through the gates. Carol watched her retreating from March toward the sun rising over the rooftops until she disappeared from view. Then he took a deep breath and headed back into the woods. Ai, meu Deus, lá vai ele sozinho pro council para poder defender o pai dele, que tá desaparecido, tentando resolver o problema das estrelas que estão caindo aos montes. Meu Deus do céu. Vamos ver o que vai acontecer aí nos próximos episódios. Então é isso aí, pessoal. Espero que vocês tenham gostado de ler mais um capítulo aqui do The Star Shepherd comigo. Espero que vocês possam treinar novamente. Tentem ler, né, o livro sozinho em voz alta. Se você não tem o livro, tenta ler as legendas em voz alta para você conseguir treinar aí a sua leitura e também a sua pronúncia, né? Então é importante que você consiga falar inglês em voz alta às vezes. E se você gostou desse vídeo, clique em gostei, que isso me ajuda bastante. Se inscreve no canal. Se você gostou do conteúdo, né, manda o link do canal para outras pessoas. Isso ajuda bastante a divulgar o canal e ajuda o canal a crescer. E muito obrigado por ter chegado até aqui e a gente vai se falar nos próximos vídeos. Tchau!